Hi everyone. Today our demo is on writing unit test cases in Asp.NET Core Web API using xUnit. Okay. So what is xUnit for .NET? xUnit for .NET is a free, open source, community focused unit testing tool for all .NET applications. By default, .NET also provides xUnit project template to implement the test cases. Okay, we can find a xUnit project from the Visual Studio or from the .NET CLI command directly to create the xUnit project. So unit test cases generally build upon AAA formula, that means arrange, act, and asset. So what is arrange? Arrange is declaring variables, objects, or instantiating the mocks, etc. Means it is just arranging everything before testing a method. Okay. So act. Act is nothing but invoking the method which we want to test for. Okay. Asset means we have to ensure the results from the our test cases are as expected. Okay, so that is the AAA formula in unit test cases. For this demo, I have created a solution like demo one. To that demo one, I have added two projects like .NET API and .NET Test API. First, let's go through demo API. So here I have created a API project, okay, with target framework of .NET 6.0. And here I have created a controller that I want to test, that is to do controller. Okay. So in this to do, we have two kind of action methods. One is get and another one is post methods. So in this demo, we are going to do unit test case. We are going to write unit test cases for this get and post methods. And also if you observe, these controllers are using some services, those are available here. So like these services are available. So services are nothing but the logical files. Okay. So here services interact with the database and these methods in the services are consumed by our controllers. So in this demo, we are going to do complete test cases. Like we are going to test our to-do controller and also test our to-do service controller. Okay. Sorry. To-do controller and also to our to-do services. Okay. So that's about the whole point about the API projects. Let's walk through test project. That is xUnit test. Why I am stressing xUnit? Because there are a lot of other way we can write test cases like NUnit test, MS test like that. Okay. Uh, but in this demo we are using xUnit test, which is most popular one. And if you observe in the project file, you can see the xUnit project template contains some default packages that are related to xUnit. Okay, that's why when you create the project, make sure to select the template is xUnit. Okay, and if you observe, our project is plain test project. So first, let's define the structure to our project. Okay, our test project. In general, test project structure is like create a folder like system. Okay, system represents entire applications that we are going to write test cases here, and inside of it I can write subfolders like control. So here I am going to store all the files that are related to testing to the or controllers. Okay, and let me add one more file like services. So here I am going to write the files regarding the services in our API. Okay, so that's the folder structure under the system. And let me add another folder like mock data. So mock data is nothing but a sample fake data. It is very essential to have a sample fake data in unit testing. So what we will do, we will maintain them in a separate folder like mock data. Okay, and we can create one more folder like helper If there are any common implementations or integrations, you can store here in the helper folder. Okay. So that is the structure basically by creating the folders in the test like system, mock data, and helper. Three main folders. But under system, we can create a number of categorized folders. Okay. And now to begin to write test cases, I want to install few additional NuGet packages that are going to help in our writing the test cases more easily. Okay. So the first NuGet package I am going to install that is mock. So this helps to define mocks in our test project. So let's install it. And the next package that I want to install is Fluent Assertion. So this library helps to test the expected results very easily. Okay, after installing the packages, we have to do one more thing, that is make sure to import or add the reference of API into our test project. Okay, don't forget that. And on every change in the API project, make sure to build the project, because then only our referenced assembly changes will be reflected into our test project. Okay, now let's go to our controller and open our to-do controller. So first, I want to write a test case for get all async methods in my test controller. Okay, first let's create a test file in our unit unit test project. So in the inside of the controllers, let's create a new file like test to do controller.cf. Okay, here is our test to do controller, and let's go to our original controller and observe the action method and how we can write a test case. So from this action method, we can observe that it is returning a some collection of to dos. Okay, so if everything goes good, it's going to return 200 status code, right? So my first test case method is that I want to prove that my controller going to give 200 status. Okay, so let me create a test method. Okay, this is my method, and method name convention for a test case is like first part of the method name should be like what method I am going to test. It is like get async. Okay, and second part of the name is like what you are expecting in the test, or what are you going to test in that unit. So here I'm expecting status 200. So in that way, we can uh, name our methods such a meaningful way. Okay, and to make this method as a testable method, we have to decorate this with a attribute like fact. So that fact loads from xUnit. So now it is a testable piece of method. How we can determine means you can see here it's showing some run test. So that means it is a testable unit. I have already mentioned test cases are implemented with AAA formula like arrange, act, asset. So arrange means nothing but declaring or mocking or preparing everything, every ingredient before we want to start the test a particular method. So if you observe here in this method, my action method depends upon I to do services, but it it don't care whatever logic that is present inside of the getAsync method. It only cares about the result that going to be written from the I to do services. So in that case, we can use a mock I to do service, and we can mock a response of our particular method. Okay, since our action method that doesn't depends upon the actual logic inside of it. So first let's try to mock our I2Do service. Okay, so to do service, I can use mock object that loads from mock, and here you can specify I2Do service. Okay, that loads from API project. So this is going to create a instance for the I2Do service. Okay, and we know we are consuming get all async method instead of the I2Do service. But actual logic we don't want to worry, but we have to get some result here, right? So for that we are going to set up some mock data as a response from that get async method of that I2Do service. So for that, first we have to define some mock data. So for that, go to mock data and create to do mock data. So this is my mock data class. Let me write a method that going to return a collection of to-dos, like a dummy data that I'm going to use it for my test cases. So to save some time, let me copy the some code snippet for that. So method I have added like is get to do's, and it's returning some dummy data or a mock data as a result. Okay, so I'm going to use this in my testing unit. So here I want to set up get or async method results. Okay, so what we can do to do service dot setup. Okay, and here what is the method we are going to target? That is get all async method. So this is the method from the I to do service means this method. So here we are going to mock the results of this method. Okay, so we will say like return async. Okay, to do mock data dot get to do's. Okay, so here what we are doing, we are just setting up the result for this method because here it's only depends upon the results, not actual logic behind the I to do service. So here we mocked the I to do service and we have specified some mock return type of the get async method of the I to do service. Okay. Now I can initialize the object of to do controller and I can pass this I to do service into it. Okay. So now what I can do, I can declare variable is SUT. So SUT stands for, it is just a convention, but what it stands for means system under test. So here what is our system under a test? Nothing but our controller. So here we have to initialize our to do controller. And we can pass to do service to that constructor. To get the instance, we should call object. Okay. So that is the part of arrange. So what we did, we have mocked the to-do service and we have set up the result for the to-do service, and that to-do service is passed into the instance of the to-do controller. So now we are done with arrange. So act. Act is nothing but method we want to test. We are testing get async of the action method of the to-do controller. So here what I can do, where result equal to, okay, await sut dot get all async. So I am simply calling this method. Okay, simply calling this method. So that is the action. There is nothing. So we are done with. We are testing this method here. So this line implies we are testing controller get all async method. Okay. So once that is run means that method is executed. we have to test our results. So like what I am expecting. So here, if all the data coming good means it written okay, right? Means 200 status I am expecting here. So how we can test 200 status? So I can test like result dot should its inputs from fluent assertion be okay. Okay, object result. Okay. So here I am testing. Okay, object result. It is returning or not. So so here I have testing. So okay, object returning means it is 200 only. And I can also write one more assertion like you can write n number of assertions like your expected results. So what I can do I can specify result as okay object result dot status code dot should be 200. Okay, now we are ready to run our test. Okay, one small correction here before running the test. Here we have to specify the get type or else we are going to get the error. Okay, so I am expecting the type should be okay result object and then finally testing the status code is 200. Okay, now let's test our unit. See, you can see here like text execution summary like my method name, okay, and the outcome is passed and total test run one test and passed one, failed zero, skipped zero. Okay, so that means we have successfully assured that our controller has been tested successfully. Means what I am expected, same output has been written from the testing. Okay, and so that's all about the initial part of the testing of the controller. And now if I again go through the our original action method, you can see there is one more case. If at all, if the output of the to-do service getAsync is zero, means nothing written, we are returning the no content. Let's write a one more test for this case as well. So in that case, we have to create one more method like, okay, this is my new method like should return status is 204. So I am testing another part of my action method that is this part. Okay, and to make this method as a testable unit, we have to decorate with the fact attribute. Okay, so that is done. So here also we will use any unit of method. We always follow these three cases: arrange, act, accept. So what I can do, I can use the our old code, copy it, and paste it over here. Okay. So in the arrange section, there won't be any changes. It should use as it is like this. But there is a one change. It should return empty collection, not a data collection. So for that, I will create one more method here in the mock data like list of to-dos that should return empty to-dos. Okay. Okay. I'm returning just empty to-dos. Now what I will do, I'm going to replace that with our new method that is it should be a static method. Okay, and now empty to dos. Okay, that is the change in the arranges. Act is as it is. We are testing same action method that is getAsync. Okay, and now we want to expect it should return no content. So means 204. So the type will be no content result. Okay, and here also I will change no content result and let's leave 200. Okay, we are expecting to 2 204, which is no content, but we are testing like 200. Let's see what will be the outcome. Okay, so let me run the test. And here you can see our test case is failed. And it also shows what is the exception, like expected status code to be 200 but found 204. Okay, like this test case gets failed if the expected results not yields. Okay, so now what I will do, I will correct my expected result to 204. Okay, and retest the unit. See, now outcome is passed. That means my test case is successfully executed. So that's it. We are done with testing our get all async action method. Okay, so that's how we do a test for our a get action method in our controller. And if you observe, there is to do service here, right? So let me open implementation, that is to do service. So here there is another method to do service. So to accomplish or to fulfill full testing, we should also test the services also. Okay, now let's test the get all async in the to do service. So for that, what I can do, let's get rid of these controllers. Okay, now what I can do, I can go to my test project, and in the systems, in the services, let's create a new file like test to do service. So here is our test to do service class. Okay, now let's go through to do service. So now we have to create an instance of our to do service, and we have to call get all async, and we have to test it. But to do service is dependent on my old DB context. Okay, so it is dependent on its constructor is dependent on my old DB context. So what is the first thought in our mind? We have to mock it, right? So for DB context, instead of mocking, there is a better choice, that is using the in-memory database in-memory DB context, which is more effective than mocking a DB context. Okay, so it will like a original. It feels like we are dealing with database directly, but it is not a database. It is a in-memory database. Okay, so to work with that in-memory database, first of all, we need to install a plugin for that one. Means we have to install one more NuGet package, that is, so we have to install Microsoft.NT Framework Core in memory. Okay, let's install this NuGet. Okay, after installing the in-memory plugin, we can concentrate on writing the our to-do service testing unit. Okay, so for test for testing the in-memory DB context, there are slight different way we have to arrange some data. Okay, so first thing is let's inherit disposable. Okay, since we are implementing disposable, we have to write iDispose method that will be called automatically once the to-do service is disposed. Okay, so this is the method. And now let's create a constructor of our test to-do service. Okay, and I want to create a variable to store my DB context. Okay, my old DB context. So let me create a variable like okay. Nothing we are going to inject into this constructor, but we are going to initialize the in-memory database in the constructor. Why we are going to initialize in the constructor means every individual action method before executing, sorry, every individual test method in a file. Test method means first let me create a one method, test method for this get all thing for to do's get all thing. Okay, let me create a method like, okay, this is my method. Here what I am doing, I am expecting a collection of to-dos. Okay, so this method, if you observe, it is returning collection of to-dos, right? Same way, I want to test a method that should return collection of to-do when I test the method. Okay, so this is the method. Now decorated with fact. Okay, now how the constructor behavior means, if this is executed, starts executing before a method, every time any method, if I run this method, a new constructor is executed. Once the method is completed, dispose is executed. Means the scope of every execution is to this method, to the test method. Okay. So for every test method, new to-do service instance is created. That's the whole point I want to convey. So that means we can create a in-memory database for each test method in our file. Okay. So that since it is in memory, if multiple methods sharing same database, results might be unexpected, which yields unexpected results. That's why it is always good to create a memory instance specific to one method itself. So ideal choice is, instead of writing everything here inside of the method, the common way where we can do means we can write in the constructor, like initializing the in-memory database. Okay, so let's try to initialize the in-memory database here, like where options, new, db context, option builder. It should be options builder, I believe. Yes. And specify our database context. And now dot use in-memory database. Okay. And here you can specify database name. Okay. It should always give a random name for every method on executing. So what I will do, I will use GUID to a random name to my database. Okay. And then we can initialize our DB context and pass the options. And we can write one more line like, to ensure that database is created. We can call this one. Okay. And here it should give return options. Okay. So in the constructor, we are going to create the instance, and in the dispose, we are going to destroy the in-memory database. Okay, to do that, what I can do, only simple lines of code like db context dot database dot ensure deleted. Okay, that's deletes the database and disposes the context as well. Okay, so that is how we have to initialize the in-memory database, and we have to dispose the in-memory database. This can happen on every execution of the method. Okay, now let's focus on our testing method like AAA formula, arrange, act, asset. Okay, now here we are dealing with context, right, in our to-do service. So what I can do, I'm going to seed some test data into my database. Okay, db context dot. You can do like a normal database. How you will add, same way it will. We can pass some test data. So I can pass my mock data to do mock data. Okay, dot get to do. I'm seeding some data. This is not enough. We have to save it to the in-memory database. To do that, we can call a save changes method like a normal database. Okay. Now some data is dumped into our in-memory database. Now let's prepare system under test. What is system under test? System under test is our to-do service. So initialize the to-do service. Okay. And to-do service expecting context, right? So pass the DB context. So that's all about the arrange, like variable declaration, everything. Now let's move to act. Act is nothing but calling the get all async method in the to-do service, right? So we just simply call that one. So where result equal to await suit dot get all async. If you hover here, it will show it is a to-do service get all async method. And the result is, since the method is returning the collection of records, right? Means all the records in the database. So here, what is my data in the database, in memory database? This is right. So what I will do, I am getting result is like a collection of to-dos, right? So that count should match with should do end assertion and have count. So that count should match with my mock data to-dos count. Okay. So this is my test case. Very simple test case. So what I am doing here, once this method is successfully executed, in this variable collection of to-dos will come. So that count should match with the database count we pushed previously. Okay. Now let's test the case. And here you can see test is passed. That means we have successfully tested our to-do service get method. So that is how we have to do the testing for services as well. Okay. So here what we have done, we have done testing for get method in controller and the services as well. And let's try to understand how to write test case for save methods or post methods in the controller. So here, this method, what it is doing, it's simply say creating a new record, but it doesn't depend upon whether the record is created or not. But here simply we are returning okay. Okay, like these cases, how we can test. So here it is obviously returning 200, right? That cases we have already did for get all thing. If you want to here also you can do same, you will get 200. But I will do a different test that if I test this method, I want to know whether this method is called. Okay, I want to test that case. So for that, let's go to our test to do controller. Okay, let's create a method like. So this is my test method, and what I am name means should call to do servicing once means I want to test if I invoke this action method, I want to know this action method is called. That means this unit is tested successfully. So here we are calling only once, right? I want to know that it is executed one time while testing this method. Okay, so that is the theme of my test case. So let's decorate with fact. Okay, and here also let's mock the to do service. There is nothing change. Okay, but here our async method needs some payload, right? So first mock that payload. So public static to I will name like add to do. Okay. So this to do going to be added. So here simply what I will return new to do. Okay. And here ID will be 0 only, name like I will something. Okay. So this is my mock data for adding a new record. Now what I will do, declare a variable new to do equal to do mock dot add to do. Okay, this is my payload I am preparing. Okay, now let's prepare our system and test. System and test is nothing but our controller, where suit equal to new to do controller and pass out to do service. And here we have to specify object. Okay, and what is act? Act is nothing but calling the action method save async. Okay, so for that what I can do, where result equal to await suit dot save async and payload I need to pass, that is new to do. Okay, now asset what I want to verify, since this action method is executing, I want to know whether this method is called. That means this method is successfully executed or not. If that executed is, this method should be called at least once, only once, right? So here what I can write a asset like to do service. I can use this to do service and dot verify, and I will check for a method like save async. Okay, and pass payload. See, this save async is our to do service, not the action method. Okay, we want to verify this method only, right? Whether it is called or not. So that method should be verified here. Okay, verified, comma, times dot exactly. I can specify like exactly only once this should be called. Okay, if this method is not invoked or this method is called more than one time, our case will be failed. Okay, let's test the case. See, outcome is passed. Our test case is passed. So this is the one kind of testing when the method is returning void method, something like that. We can write this kind of verification. Okay. And same way, let's test the to do service save method as well. Let me go to do service. Okay. Here I have save method, right? So here I am simply saving my data into the database. So here also let's uh, write some test cases, but here we don't have any method that to test whether it is invoked at least one time or not. So that verification only possible when we mock the instance. But here my DB context is not mocked one; it is a virtual. So for this kind of cases, we can write different like let's open my test to do service, okay, and create a one more method like public async task save async underscore add new to do. I want to test new record is added into the database or not. Okay, that is my goal of my unit test case. Okay, since constructor and the dispose method gets executed for every individual function, so we are aware that in-memory database will be created for each method. Okay, and it should be decorated with fact. Here what I can do, I can use this arrange this. Okay, and I also want a new to do. I want to add new to do and to do mock data get add to do. Okay, that those are my arranges. Up to here we are reading our database. Reading our database. Here I am just storing my new record that I want to insert. Okay, And now let's do act. So act is nothing but to dot await to dot save everything and pass our new to do. So now to test whether my record is inserted or not, what I can do means I will create a expected record count like to do mock data get to do plus one. Right, and this should be count. Okay, why I am doing like this? Because initial data we are feeding get to do's. Once we add a new record, it should be get incremented by one, right? So that's why I am expecting this. If get to do's have one record plus one total with the new record, we are expecting two records. Okay. So now what I can do is set here. I will use DB context directly and to do I will call count method count dot should be our expected count. Okay. So like this we can test our save method into the database. Okay, if I run our test, see add to do case pass. That means we are successfully tested our to do service save method as well. So like this we can write n number of test cases based upon our requirements. So that's all about writing unit test cases using xUnit in .NET Core. I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. If you like my video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel. Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.